on
On
Instagram.
Instagram, are we live on Facebook?
We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. Hi, everyone.
Welcome to our home, to our humble abode.
Yes, welcome. Today, it's, what is today? October
Thursday the 29th. This is our last online meeting in October. And we'll be getting ready for the holidays and doing special stuff. And I feel like my lunch today corresponds with what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, well, I know what you had for lunch, so probably so. I wasn't there. But we are talking digestion just in time for Halloween. Halloween is Saturday, full moon Halloween.
Yes.
And so a lot of consumption of sweets probably will take place more than likely.
Probably.
And so we're going to talk digestion today in this show.
So I had I got to visit my mother, who's in a nursing home for the first time since April because of the shutdown. And so my brother texted me and asked me to meet him for lunch before we went. And of course, we stopped somewhere that was fast food. I won't mention the name of the place. It was good, but I feel like I need some help digesting because I don't eat a whole lot of fast food anymore. And I can feel it kind of laying here, the brick.
And emotionally, can you tell any difference in emotionally after consuming that type of food, how you feel?
I don't feel anything.
Yeah, no change at all.
Not yet. I'm sure that between the soft drink and the sandwich and the curly fries, I'm going to be feeling a whole lot of things.
Yes.
Again, I don't eat much. I haven't eaten. I can't remember the last fast food place I ate.
No, we don't eat fast food very, very rarely, Emily. And
but I'm feeling my backsliding starting to affect me.
So we're all human, and this is a thing that we need to think of as far as when we eat things like that, because it's inevitable. We live in America, and things like that are going to happen. Sometimes we just give into cravings for whatever reason, or out of convenience, we end up eating that way. And so the way I look at it in Ayurveda is like we want to eat, if at all possible, at all times, just plain and simple real food. And what you just ate today is not real food. It was very highly processed foods. And we also want to think about the meat that we consume as well.
It's real meat.
But how was the animal treated? So we don't know that with the fast food. And more than likely, it was, not treated like a cow should live. And therefore, you are consuming the energies. I'm assuming you ate beef, consuming the energies of the animal that you ate. So, so here's a little food for thought. So, we live in a world where sometimes that happens. And it's okay, because you want to look at kind of the 80-20 rule. 80% of the time living and eating Ayurvedically, and the 20% of the time you're going to mess up. It's okay, and it'll balance itself out. So, as the main takeaway from that particular issue is not to eat like that all the time, because if you eat like that all the time, that's why you see so many in America suffering from mental issues, obesity, chronic disease, all sorts of things, simply because of their diet. And we're kind of seeing that play out with the behaviors that we're seeing. Behaviors seem to be getting quite stressful. People seem to be getting a little meaner, and it could very much be directly linked to the foods that we're consuming. It's plain and simple as that. If you're consuming energy from foods that were not treated well, then we are going to behave and react from that.
From that energy level.
Yes. Okay. So key takeaway, it's okay. We're going to do that. We're going to do better tonight with dinner. And and it'll all be good.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about digestion. So I want to talk about before I give you some helpful tips on how to improve your digestion, which right now you're needing, let's talk a little bit about the digestive process. And in Ayurveda, we look at it as the sixth taste. Did you know that?
I did. Digestion starts with the tongue.
Yes, absolutely. And smell too. So there's a sense of smell. But the
Oh,
actual digestion process and smell stimulates the digestive
oh, okay.
juices as well.
I was on step 2.
But know that tongue, the taste, the digestion begins in the mouth. Absolutely. And so it's called stage 1, and it's associated with the sixth taste. Which I find quite fascinating. So stage 1 is considered the sweet stage, and that starts in the mouth and digestion.
Is that a stage or is that a
It's
taste?
stage. It's a taste, but it's associated. The stages of digestion is associated with the
I
taste.
never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? So then the second step is the sour stage. And the sour stage is where hydrochloric acid is secreted in the stomach. And so, you've heard old timers term, or I have growing up on a farm, I got a soured stomach. Did your parents ever say that?
Yeah.
Got a soured
Yeah.
stomach? Yeah. That's the second. They are stuck in the second stage. They more than likely ate something that they're just having an issue secreting. The hydrochloric acid is secreting too much. So whatever they consumed was causing too much hydrochloric acid, and that's where you get the acid reflux and all that going on. And so sour stomach, that would be where that came from, which is interesting because that's the second stage of digestion, the sour stage.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you can move them past the sour stage and into the salty stage, that's where you're going to find that the digestion starts to move downward. And the salty stage is where the pyloric valve opens and food enters into the duodenum. And so acid food stuff from the stomach mixes with alkali pancreatic secretions and bile yielding salts. That's kind of interesting. And so the metabolism, the excretion of these enzymes start to alkalinize now the food. So we've moved past that sour stage into the salty stage.
Okay, so
Can
I back you up? So you said the sour taste.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean if we eat something that tastes sour, will kick in the acid in our stomach?
No. Now the taste, we want to try to incorporate in our foods all 6 tastes. The reason being is if we incorporate all 6 tastes into our foods, then we will feel satisfied and complete and not have any cravings after we're done with our meal. So they have associated the taste with the taste are associated, not the taste themselves, the taste are associated with the digestion process. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about how we're digesting and what I'm saying, like the alkalinizing of the pancreas releasing the enzymes to alkalinize the food, it is now bile is being released, and that is the salty stage.
Okay. So in my, not too many years ago, in my anatomy and physiology class in college, I thought they only taught 4 tastes.
In college?
Uh-huh.
Not that I'm aware of. There's always
Because
been
it's sweet, sour, salty, and
bitter. Yeah, those are probably the most distinct taste.
Okay. And you're going to get to the other ones, right?
Yes, pungent. Pungent is the 4th stage, and this stage occurs in the jejunum, and its most intestinal enzymes are pungent. Here, protein, fats, and carbs are broken down,
Okay.
and they continue to be digested.
And that happens where?
In the jejunum.
I thought my jejunum was itchy.
It's your jejunum. And so let's talk about the 5th stage, which is the bitter stage. And the 5th stage is where the food enters the ileum and stomach becomes light and can create a sense of hunger. So this is when you've now digested, and this is important here because a lot of people will start to eat because you feel lighter and you might have a little bit of a hungry. So don't eat at this stage because we're still digestion. So it's important that we don't eat about 4 hours between meals.
Okay.
Since we want the digestive process to complete itself before we start putting in more food.
So what would be the proper timing between meals?
About 4 hours between meals.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we want to, so this 5th stage is important because it cools the body and therefore calms pitta type symptoms. And so it's a very healing stage that we go through. And then the sixth stage, the last stage, is the astringent stage. And this is where the ileocecal valve opens and food enters the cecum, and absorption of the remaining minerals and liquids occurs. And that's where the feces is formed, our bowels are formed there. And so that's the 6 stages of digestion.
Wow.
So we're not talking about elimination. That's different. We're talking about digestion, which elimination is very important.
Yes.
So they also have made this into doshic top stages as well.
Okay.
And if you stop it, if you know anything about the doshas, this will make perfect sense. So the digestion, the phases of digestion and the doshas, or kapha, is prominent for the first 1 to 2 hours after eating. This phase nurses all bodily kaphas. And so what this means is, if you'll notice, after you eat, you feel a little sluggish, right? And I'm going to give you some tips and all that as we move on. The second stage is a pitta stage, and it's for the next 2 to 3 hours. So 1 to 2 hours after you eat, it's the kapha stage of digestion. The 2 to 3 hours after that is the pitta stage of digestion. And then what's so funny? And the vata stage
I'm feeling the sluggish stage after my meal, an hour and a half
So
ago.
I said that last 1 to 2 hours, the kapha stage, the very beginning after you eat, depending on what you ate and how much, if you way overindulged, like we did at Mexican last week. We ate Mexican. We always overindulge with Mexican, so I try to avoid that. But
It's only,
it was,
we
were in
only
the
go there
kapha
5
stage
times
for
a
like
week.
10 hours.
Yes.
Of digestion. It just stayed and stayed and stayed.
We got home, we rolled out of the truck and rolled into the door and rolled onto the recliner and go, oh my God.
Yes, why did we do that? And we do that every time we go there. The third stage is the vata stage of digestion. Remember, we're feeling lighter here. That's 2 to 3 hours after. So that gives you an idea. So if we want the most optimal digestion, we want to eat according to our doshic food group. That's a whole nother show. But if you're familiar with your doshas, your prakriti, your original doshic makeup, we want to eat the foods in that food group, keeping in mind our ethnicity as well. So eating according to our ethnicity, our doshic makeup, and that will help our digestion, plain and simple, remain as optimal as possible.
So what about people like us that have like 20 different 20 different origins of our heritage? Because we can't, even though you have a German name, you're not German, or a Norwegian name, you're not just that. You have, like, I've seen your Ancestry.com report. It's like, wow. You're from everywhere.
Yes, yes. So if that's the case, and eventually we're all going to be mutts, right? Eventually, the way we're all intermingling, and we're all going to be mutts. And so the best thing to do is to listen, and we should do this anyway, listen very keenly to our body signals. Our body's always sending us signals as to what's good and not, and for us. And so tapping into that all knowing voice of the body sending the signals, because the body's always sending signals. It's whether or not we have ears to hear those signals. And that means paying attention to signs and symptoms. And so number one, going as a guide, primarily using your doshic food guide, and then using your body signals. And that should be done with all of us as well.
So where does that voice come from?
The voice, I'm meaning symptoms, like how are you feeling emotionally, physically.
Okay.
No audible voice.
I didn't know if the voice was from our head, from our gut, from an outer.
We're going to talk about the brain-gut connection.
Yeah. Okay.
That's part of digestion, is the brain-gut connection. So it's a good thing that you said that. But no, as far as what I'm saying, listening to the signals, I'm saying your body is always telling you what it needs, what worked and what didn't work. And it can be very, very subtle. But the more we pay attention, the more we're going to hear those signals. Because if we don't heed those signals, the body's going to send us another signal, and if we don't heed that signal, it will send another one. And that's how chronic disease develops, is by not listening to the signals that have been being sent to us all along, because a chronic disease does not develop without signals being sent, and it's simply a matter of not listening to those signals and not heeding to. All right, so let's talk about the brain-gut connection. So did you know that the enteric nervous system is considered the brain-gut connection? And so the gut and the brain are directly related. And so the people that suffer like with irritable bowel syndrome, and if you do suffer, I want you to pay attention, because right now digestive issues, particularly here in the United States, are just extreme. And I believe personally there's a lot of things behind that. It's the diets, the fast foods, the processed foods that we're eating. It's the fact that we are not consuming foods that have not been genetically modified. So we are consuming genetically modified foods when we think we're eating healthy. You know, there's a big vegan movement right here now, and hear my heart, there's nothing wrong with being vegan, but there's a big vegan movement right now that people are thinking they're eating healthy, but they're eating all these foods that taste like meat that was processed in labs. I've actually went through that phase myself, and one day I was like looking at the package of this meat. Remember that?
Yes.
And I was like, oh my goodness, this is worse than, I mean, just
Worse than meat.
Well, no, Ayurveda believes in eating meat.
No, I know, but
but
the fake
Ayurveda
meat
also
is worse for you than meat.
Yes. And so if you're craving meat bad enough that you're going and buying a food that's fake, made in a lab, you know, I was even guilty of running to a particular fast food chain when they offered their particular vegan burger, and it's delicious. And then I was like, no, eat the burger. There, I know someone's waving at us. So eat the burger. If you're craving a meat bad enough that you're going out and buying fake processed lab meats, and you are very sad against eating animal products, then either number one, skip the meat
And fake meat.
and mainly skip the fake meat. But seriously, go to ethical farmers, go to ethical places that are get to know your farmers and buy your products, your animal products from them. And that will help. I'm telling you, it will help everything tremendously if we just simply did that.
I have a question. I need to start a, what's it called when you ask a question, people respond, and you start I just need to ask a question.
Okay, ask a question.
So I would like some response. I would like some response from people, because I don't think you know this answer. What food group does marshmallow fluff fall under?
I think there is no food group for marshmallow fluff.
If you're out there and you have an answer to what food group marshmallow fluff falls under, please respond. And even if you're not going to listen, if you're not listening live and you listen to this later,
I know what you can do with the marshmallow
marshmallow
fluff.
fluff.
You can put the marshmallow fluff on this fake processed vegan meat, and there you go.
Okay. Marshmallow fluff covered fake meat.
There you go. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey.
Sounds delicious.
It does sound delicious. All right. So, do you want some helpful hints on how to
do.
improve your digestion?
Could you please tell me how to get
Sounds like you need it. And by the way,
my roast beef going
down, because you're in the copper stage, because you can't even think of what you want to say.
Yeah, I know. It's like
you're all foggy.
I know there's a word there, but I can't think of the word in it.
All right.
I stay there though.
Most of the time, yes, you do. So, I had a thought and I just lost it. So
suggestions.
So number one, I'm gonna. I know what that thought was. I wrote a blog. If you want to go, I've got some nice little downloads. I'll upload the downloads to social media after our show so that you can have them. But it's little tips on digestion and how you can use these simple little tips to help you. So number one, do not drink iced beverages, especially with meals. And you know that. And he had revealed to us all, if you were paying attention, that he had a soda.
I did.
And so he had ice in that soda. So that was one of the things that you did right off the bat.
I did.
And you squelched your digestive fire.
I admitted that honestly and upfront.
Yeah.
But most of the time I just have warm or room temperature water.
Yes, and that's
with my meal.
perfectly fine. We want to sip. And if we can hold off from drinking any liquids 2 hours after a meal, that helps as well. Helps the digestion, because we don't want to water down the digestion process.
Okay.
So think about that. So drink warm or room temperature water throughout the day. And we just discussed that. Drink warm water with fresh squeezed lemon and a 1/4 inch of sliced fresh ginger with meals. So one of the things that's a very helpful hint. Now, a lot of times you can't find fresh ginger at the restaurants, but if you're going out and eating and the waiter comes over, a waitress comes over, and first thing off the bat, they say, what would you like to drink? Tell them to bring you some hot water and fresh slices of lemon. And so they'll bring you a cup of, like a coffee cup full of warm water, and squeeze your lemon in there and sip on that while you're waiting on your meal. You're getting the digestive juices starting to flow then.
And you can bring your ginger with you from home.
You can if you want to. When I'm at home, I like to do a little slice of ginger, squeeze of lemon, and then I just refill that over and over and over and refresh the lemon in my water, but keep that little ginger in there.
So is there another substitute for people like me who aren't ginger people?
Just do lemon and squeeze of lemon and water.
Just leave the ginger
fine.
out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So favorite warm cooked foods over raw. Now we're moving into autumn at this particular time. So in the United States, we're in fall season. We live in Florida. However, it's still hot. How hot is it out there? It's still in the 80s.
It's about 120 today.
It's still in the 80s out there, but I know I've talked to my sister who lives in Missouri, and it's cold and rainy there. It's time to start consuming warm, nourishing meals, preparing for winter. And raw vegetables are one of the worst things you can do for digestion right now. We want to really feed it nice warm. Now, if you do, we want you to eat your vegetables, so steam them lightly, and you'll get better benefit, and you're able to digest those vegetables better. And we are very big advocates in Ayurveda about not eating leftovers. So once you're done eating, throw it out. If you're like us, we got a little dog here. We give him, because we eat very healthy most of the time, we give him, like last night we had salmon. So our dog had salmon for dinner. So, and some fresh veggies. He had Brussels sprouts, I believe. So fresh veggies and salmon. We also throw him a bone because dogs have different needs. One of the things I kind of cringe on is that people try to make their dogs vegan, and dogs are carnivorous animals. And so we want to make sure they're getting the needs that they need to be healthy as well. And so I make sure he gets a little bone broth. We feed our dog, because he has hip issues, bone broth to make sure that we're really feeding him the good collagen he needs. And then he got salmon dinner with a little Brussels sprouts last night. And then we supplement with a good dog food as well when we don't feel like our meal is appropriate. So favor a warm cooked foods over raw, which is I just said, don't eat leftovers. And the next thing is eat your largest meal during at noon. At noon is the time our digestion's the best, right? It's the pit of time of day, means our digestion is stronger then. So definitely eat your biggest meal at noon.
Yeah, and because we both work from home or from the offices from our home, since we've been at home more, we've done that more often. And actually, you feel better at the end of the day by eating your biggest meal at noon. I know that I do. I wasn't sure how that was going to work for me because, I'm typically a grazer, and I like to graze kind of all day or all night. But when you have your big meal at lunch, you kind of get that out of the way, and you're really kind of more content as you get into the evening hours and not having to continually open the cabinet doors and look to see what's available.
Yes. And, also it helps tremendously the quality of sleep that you have. So if you eat a lighter meal at dinner time, by the time you go to bed, if you go to bed slightly hungry, you're going to get a lot better night's sleep, believe it or not. It's amazing how that works. And here in the United States, we are programmed to eat our biggest meal at dinner time. We just are. We sit around, or typically the way it used to be is, and I miss those days, so you sit around and made a big family dinner, and you sit around and had a big meal, and then you're down for the count the rest of the night. But in Ayurveda, we say have that big meal during lunchtime, and then eat a nice little soup or a very easily small digestible meal at dinner time. And I promise you, you'll get a better night's sleep if you do that.
Yes.
Some of the things you can eat for dinner is bone broth soups. That's fabulous for dinner, because if you consume a bone broth at dinner time, at nighttime, when you're sleeping, you're processing the wonderful collagen and proteins from the bone broths.
Oh.
Now, if you're vegan, of course, honor that. I don't want to say that you shouldn't be vegan, because absolutely, if that's what resonates and feels right for you, then if I do good vegetable broth, and I when I was vegan, I did a lot of vegetable broths and still occasionally do. Is if you were making, like I did a lot of juicing and still do juicing, but I would save my veggie scraps from juicing and even pulp, and I'd stick them in a big baggie in the freezer, because we were juicing so much, particularly when we cleansed. And I would stick those in, or if you have veggies in your refrigerator that are on the verge of going bad, but they're still fresh, but you can't eat them in time, stick them in the freezer, in a freezer bag, and stick them in your freezer, and then get them out and then add them to a big soup pot full of wonderful fresh water. Add some wonderful spices to it, boil it for about 30 minutes, remove your vegetables, and you got wonderful organic veggie broth, as long as your veggies were organic. What are you doing?
What are you sitting on?
What am I sitting on?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a lot taller than you.
How did that happen? I just noticed. I was looking at the camera and going, how are you taller than me?
I don't know, my chair's up. You're sunk way down.
In real life, I'm 14 inches taller than you are.
Because you're sunk way down there.
Yeah, I guess so.
He sits in his chair and it squishes the hydraulic in it down. Because every time I have to get into
What are you saying?
Nothing. It's like that whatever you ate for lunch is.
Yes, I ate that much.
Squish your chair down. All right. Wait 2 hours after a meal before drinking.
Or swimming.
Or swim.
My parents never would let us go swimming.
I think we all grew up with that theory.
Yeah.
You can't swim for 2 hours.
Is that Ayurvedic?
No.
Just
Get
hillbilly.
in the water and float around and swim all you want to if you've got the opportunity, right?
I know. My parents just wanted a nap after dinner, after lunch.
And that's one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah.
Is lie down and take a nap. I think that's coming up. So take a good walk after you eat your meal. That helps. So if you rest for about 10 minutes after eating, let everything settle, and then get out, take a nice little walk. It's amazing how that will make you feel better. But walking helps the digestive process as well.
Still can't believe you look that much taller than me.
Now we're like even, and you're sunk way down there.
Yeah, I know. All right, go ahead. I'll fix this issue.
Okay, so I talked about this earlier, incorporating bone broths in your diet. Bone broth is very healing to the gut and nourishes the tissues.
I went down more.
I like to make my own bone broths. You know that. I fix it for like 3 days at a time. I've got bone broth constantly brewing in my crock pot, making my supply of bone broth for the month. So I do like to make my own bone broth. If you don't like to do that, which I've had clients in the Dragonfly plans that I just can't do that, perfectly fine. You can get it organic, free-range bone broth at the stores now. So it's readily available at the stores. So incorporate bone broths, and anytime you want to use water, like when I fix rice and we eat basmati rice a lot, because basmati rice is very easily digestible. It's also considered a very sattvic, balanced. Sattvic means peaceful, balanced, perfect. It's easy to digest, and if you'll notice how you feel after eating basmati rice, you should feel nice and pleasant. And so I fix my basmati rice a lot of times in bone broth. Now, last night I experimented and fixed it because I'm doing homemade almond milk, and I fixed it in almond milk, and I thought it was delicious, but added it and made it sweet. It made the rice sweet. So
It's a little different.
yeah, so I think that would be good for like a breakfast, more of a breakfast type of thing.
That's kind of what I was thinking last night when we were eating it. But the good thing about steaming rice is you can always steam your vegetables, like we did the Brussels sprouts with it last night. Makes making dinner a whole lot easier.
Yeah, I love a big, we have, and if you haven't invested in something like this, I highly recommend it because it's a wonderful product. We have a rice cooker. It's, by the way, make sure that you're, if you do purchase a product, that it doesn't have, what is that coating that is
Teflon.
Teflon. Well, I don't know if all Teflons, just make sure the coating on it, like, go with stainless steel. Bottom line, stainless steel is always the best bet. We've got a stainless steel rice cooker, and on top of it came with a stainless steel basket that you can steam your veggies. And so you can cook your rice in your almond milk or your bone broth, whatever you want to cook it in. I add seasoning to my rice as well. I love digestive seasoning like cumin, little coriander, little turmeric. I add that to my rice and stir it up, and then put the steamer basket on top, put the veggies on top, and then it all cooks. And I stick, if we're having fish like the other night, we had fish last night, I stuck the fish in the oven, turned my rice cooker on, and all at the same time, within 30 minutes, you got a wonderful, healthy dinner. And so think about little shortcuts like that that you can use. Do not eat if you're not hungry. So that's the one thing that we have a problem with. And I'd say we have a problem with, is that we will start munching on things, and I'm not the least bit hungry. And so that's where we're working on that. And that's where we're human, and we're eating for the pleasure, the sensual pleasure of it, and not because we need it. And so learning to discipline yourself a little better. So using culinary spices like ginger, cinnamon, black pepper, cumin, and coriander. And by the way, on my blog site, if you'll look there, I've got digestive spices. I've got a recipe there for my dragonfly curry. It has fabulous digestive herbs in it. So I highly recommend going to my blog at dragonfly, over here, right there, dragonflyayurveda.com. Go into the blog tab at the top and find in the spice section, and you can print off that spice recipe, and it's fabulous. And I use that on our vegetables a lot. Or if you're making a curry dish, here Americans, we don't eat a lot of curry, but try it in your rice. Try blending it, and sprinkle it on your vegetables if you're roasting them or steaming them. Now, by the way, when I steam my vegetables, I like to coat my veggies with the little ghee and sprinkle some of the curry or some digestive spices on them. In between meals or while cooking, enjoy digestive tea. Ayurveda calls this CCFT. It's cumin, coriander, and fennel. I like to go a little step further and add fenugreek to it. So, and ginger. So do coriander. So get you some cumin seeds. They're in the spice section of any grocery store. Cumin seeds, coriander, fennel seeds, and fenugreek. I like to add, like I said, a little ginger, fresh ginger to it. Sip on that while you're making dinner or waiting for your dinner, and that's going to help stoke those digestive fires, get you primed and optimum ready. So chew 30 times before you swallow, and that's very hard to do,
especially with cream of wheat or
well,
oatmeal.
Yeah, well, there are exceptions. So if you can chew, try to get your food that you have in your mouth as liquefied as possible, and that will help with the digestive process too. And one of the things I haven't mentioned, and it's very important, is that when you sit down and eat your meal, it's a sacred time. You're feeding your body, and there's almost every, and I don't know of any religious belief or spiritual practice that doesn't do this particular, what do you call this? They call it puja in India, like an offering. So is that they offer food to God or whatever it is. And think about you, if you're a Christian, that we all, most religious beliefs believe we have that spirit within us, a piece of God within us that's all connected. And if you think about your body being the temple that holds God, then think about the food that you're putting in your temple. And so dinner, any mealtime should be a sacred experience. It's a practice of worship. And if you look at meal times like that, it really gives it a whole different perspective, right?
Makes you consider what you're eating.
It really does. What are you feeding your temple that houses the Spirit of God? And so that's a real important concept. And if people would just simply think with that mindset, we would all just naturally eat better, right? And so the other thing we want to think about too is our company that we're keeping during dinner time. Mealtime is what I'm trying to say. So think about the company that you're keeping during mealtime. And we want to make sure that we're having pleasant conversations, because the last thing we want to do is have the news on, watching news, eating the meal, or anything that's distracting. So turn off all electronic devices. Have good people over, family over that are positive, and have good conversations. And it's not a time if you have kids to start talking about what they should be doing, right? Or the chores they should be doing, or what they did wrong. That mealtime is or what they didn't do. Mealtime is not a time to bring that up. Mealtime is a time to connect and make sure it's a sacred experience. And that would be connecting with everyone that's around your table and having good and pleasant conversations. Huh?
Yes.
No fighting at the dinner table or the lunch table or breakfast table. So one last little hint here. Triphala, there is a supplement in Ayurveda called Triphala. I'm a firm believer in Triphala. It feeds the good bacteria in the gut. It's it's 3 fruits made up of 3 dried fruits. Triphala is readily available product just about, in any health food store you're going to find it. You can find it online. But I highly recommend everyone consuming Triphala. It's wonderful to help stoke the digestive fires, keep the digestion optimal. It's what we call tridoshic. It balances all 3 doshas. Take it 30 minutes before bedtime every night, and you should sleep better after taking it. And the next day you should be having better elimination, and your digestion should be better after taking it. So those are the helpful hints on digestion. Is there, and I've provided, like I said, some infographics on the blog. Once we're done here, I'll post the blog, and I'll have some handy dandy little, cute little infographics that look a little like this.
Actually, they look exactly like that.
And so go there and you can print them off or download them on your computer, whatever you like, and you'll have some handy dandy little tips.
Yeah. So Annette, you shared a bunch of points, things to do, things to incorporate into our daily routine. And so I just want to remind everybody to not let that overwhelm you. Don't feel like all 523 things that she just shared has to be incorporated into your life. Start with 2 or 3 of them. Start with, a handful of things that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like this is doable for me. Start with those and begin to notice how you feel. Start to begin to notice how your body feels and how you feel, not just after your meal, but 2 or 3 or 4 hours later.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for sharing all that. And our time is about up today. So we want to say a blessing over everyone that joined us today. So thank you for being with us, whether you've watched live or whether you're going to watch later on your favorite social media platform. But we just want to thank you and speak blessings of love, joy, peace, physical health and well-being, abundance of all things that you need and require, and the spiritual awareness to know your significance, your value, and your purpose. God bless you. Thank you for being with us.
Namaste.